And she was like taking her time, and I remember at one point I was like, can we please just do it because I'm really nervous. In other words, but that was like definitely the emotion that I was giving her.
That's so funny. I don't think you told me that.
Hi guys, I'm Hannah.
I'm Sadie.
And we're not straight. And welcome to part 3 of the relationship series. We've covered part 1, we've covered part 2, which ended at me standing in New York, soaking wet, and Sadie calling me on the phone to tell me that we're not going to talk for a month.
Yeah. We're going to pick up from there and see where we get.
Yeah.
So at this point, Hannah and I had a lot of conversations about kind of our like unsettled feelings about sexuality, the future, our relationships, that kind of thing. Kind of having these like questioning feelings about my sexuality and about Hannah. And so I decided I gotta like do it on my own.
And it was jarring. Because keep in mind, I'd broken up with my boyfriend like 5 days prior. And they had called off the wedding but hadn't made any other decisions 4 days prior.
Yeah, so that's kind of where we were at. So I have mentioned this in like several videos, but I'm definitely a verbal processor. So not having my like person to like talk things through, I had other friends that I talked to, but it was like Hannah was kind of my go-to. And so I had been talking to a few other friends too, so I kept talking to them and getting their feedback and stuff. But I also started journaling, which like I'm not really a big journaler. And
Journaler.
I feel like that's a word. Journaler?
Sure.
It is now.
Journalist?
I think that's different.
Okay.
I'm also not a journalist. So anyway, I started journaling, and it was like I feel like it was the opposite of what you see in the movies, where like a young kid like sits down and like dear diary, and they like write for like days and stuff.
Yes.
I was like I don't even know what to say. Like I don't know. I'm like talking to a piece of paper. This doesn't do anything for me. So I was trying to like get my feelings out and like spill it in a journal so that I could get rid of all of my feelings and be able to not get rid of, but just like get them out there so that I could then like sort through. It didn't really help. I have to say, no shade on journaling in general, but like it wasn't for me.
Yeah, well, it's not really your style.
Yeah, I don't. I'm not organized. Period. But I'm definitely not organized enough to like keep a routine journal. So it was kind of like sporadic. Every once in a while, I would be like, oh, I gotta write this down. And so I started doing that, and that was kind of my way of like coping.
Yeah. So meanwhile, back at the ranch, as they say, I have like fallen into this very strange, like, I don't know, like otherworldly, but in a weird way. What's the word for that?
Twilight Zone?
Yeah, that's perfect. Where I'm like going to work, but like at my desk, you know, like haven't actually done work in what felt like days, or maybe I was doing work but I was asleep while it was happening, like hard to say. And coming home, and the way I can express my emotions is often through music. That's been true since I was a kid, I guess. I used to sing Britney Spears in like dentist waiting rooms, like to all of the other waiting patrons. I would sing like "Hit Me Baby One More Time," which is weird when you're like 4 years old. But anyway,
I would pay big bucks to see that.
I can't believe she never filmed it. Anyway, so I kind of turned to my guitar and wanted to play every day, like kind of set that intention, because it helps calm me down, and it helps, I don't know, it helps me work through emotions like that. And so in high school, I used to record a lot of the music that I would play, and so I started doing that again and posting it as kind of an outlet. And I think secretly, / maybe not so secretly in my head, hoping that Sadie would see it and know that I was in this like angsty teenager way, like communicating with her like through the phone, like through video that she would hopefully see which is, I don't know, immature, cute. It's hard to tell.
I don't know.
I mean, you watched them. You said later that you saw some of them.
Yeah.
So
I have since watched all of them.
yeah,
For sure.
maybe embarrassing. Is that the word?
No.
Okay, thanks.
No.
So to add to the madness, I was also training for a marathon.
That in itself is madness, in my opinion.
I'm from a big running family, and it's somehow become normal to run marathons in my family. And I had registered for one like 4 months prior, before any of this started to go down, and it was scheduled for like right in the middle of this month. So I had trained kind of poorly for this. Like, my maximum mileage was 17 miles, and if you've done a marathon, it's like, ooh, you'll probably finish, but it's not going to be pretty if you only make it that far in your training. A marathon is 26 miles. So I show up marathon morning, and I'm doing fine, and of course my mom was like, you're a vegetarian and you need protein, so we'll put extra cheese on the pizza, which it was, long story short, horrible. It was a horrible, horrible race. And in the meantime, I'm like just sitting thinking about like my ex-boyfriend, and I'm thinking about Sadie, and I haven't been able to talk to anyone, and I'm like sobbing my way through the back half of the marathon and over the finish line. I can probably show a picture or something, but it was rough. So in that like compromised mental state, I get home and I'm like recovering, and by recovering I mean like laying on a bed doing nothing because I can barely walk. I get a text message from one of our mutual friends who like is awesome and didn't really know like any of the story, I think, at this point.
No one really knew.
Yeah, no one
much of
really
it.
knew. It was kind of hush hush because it was all still being figured out, I guess. So she texts me and she says like, hey, we're all gonna hang out tonight. We haven't seen you in a little bit. Do you want to come with us? But the catch is that the hangout was gonna be at Sadie's house.
Yeah, and so I lived with a few people who were in this group of mutual friends, and that day was my mom's birthday, and so my parents had come over, and so my partner at the time and I were gonna go out to dinner with my parents, and so I got a message from, I think from you.
From me.
Yeah, asking if, like, is it okay if I come over? Like, we weren't talking, you know, whatever. And I was like, oh yeah, that's fine. Like, I'm not even gonna be there.
Right, and it was gonna be this other group of people,
Right.
and they're all like our mutual friends,
Right.
and so I wanted to check in. I felt like it would have been weird to just arrive.
Yeah. It also would have been weird if she had just said like, no, I'm not coming.
Yes.
Because like they're all our friends, and so I was like, I mean, if I say like, no, you can't go.
Right.
That's it's gonna look weird, like something's going on, and we didn't really want to like put it out there like, hey, like we're going through some shit, like a few of us, and
right.
We didn't want to like put that out there and put it on our friends either. We were trying to keep it like keep things as normal as possible. Like that was kind of the mentality.
Which on paper made a lot of sense. And then in reality,
maybe those of you watching know that doesn't make a ton of sense.
And like in retrospect, we get how this definitely could have gone wrong and did go wrong when I show up as anticipated, and their dinner ends sooner than expected? Or was it that your parents wanted to go back to your place to see everyone? Was that like what happened?
I thought so. Yeah, I think there were just like a bunch of miscommunications. I thought that people were gonna be at my house and then they were gonna leave, and they ended up hanging out for quite a while longer. I thought that Hannah was maybe gonna just stop by and then leave. And since we weren't talking, I didn't really check in and ask.
Yeah,
that one's on me. And I also thought that that the hangout with my parents was gonna last longer, and so. But my parents love my friends, and like I'm super close with my family, and so they know a lot of my friends too, and so they were like, oh, there's people at your house, like, let's go say hi. So we went back, and me and my parents and Hannah and my fiance, who I just called off the wedding with, all hung out together.
So, yeah, I'm sitting on the porch steps talking to someone when, like, up walks this group of people, and I feel, like, panic, but I'm like, oh, play it cool. This is exactly where we can't freak out, right? Like, this is where it has to just stay fine.
Yeah.
So I greet her fiance, and I greet her parents, and her mom sits down next to me and asks me first thing about how my boyfriend is doing. And I was like, actually, we just broke up. And then I was like, I need to get out of this conversation because I don't know what she knows, and I don't know what I shouldn't divulge. I ended up talking to her fiance for a while on the front lawn about totally other things unrelated. And we had a friendship, so it wouldn't have been weird. But it was. And then we all ended up, like, Hannah, Sadie, and the fiance on their living room couch at one point, which...
That was a moment.
That was a moment. And for, like, the one or two other people in the room who knew what was going on, it was, like, a lot of, like, panicked eye contact. Like...
Darts of, like, glares.
Yeah, of, like, what do we do? Yeah. I'm thinking, like, should I leave? Should I, like, make up some excuse and just leave? And the other half of me is like, you are finally getting to see her again, and you're a wreck, and you can barely walk anyway, so what's the point? Yeah, so that part was on me, I think, not just standing up and leaving. But I don't know, all of our other friends were there, so we were also having a good time. Like,
yeah,
it was like...
There was a lot going into it, I think.
Yeah, like we were all playing games together, and I don't know.
Yeah. I think there were several opportunities for, like, alleviating a lot of the stress in the situation, and we didn't take any of them.
No, we didn't.
So that was about midway through the time that we weren't talking. So after that, we kind of went back to not talking, and I was having conversations with my boyfriend, fiance at the time, and trying to figure things out, and just working through a lot of that stuff. And so that lasted another couple of weeks. Also, in the midst of these, like, kind of conversations and, like, having this, like, final separation, there were a couple of things that we couldn't cancel from our wedding. And one of them was a rented house where my bridal party was going to stay the night of the wedding, or the night before and the night of the wedding. And so I had that idea to just invite all of my family that was planning on coming into town to stay there for the weekend instead. So we had, like, a little mini family reunion, which ended up actually being really cool, but it was, like, a really stressful time. And I think all of them were kind of, like, dancing around the idea, like, do we ask? Do we not ask? Is it, like, how touchy of a subject is it? And I think they didn't want to, like, rock the boat, like, the actual weekend of what was going to be the wedding.
And yes, to remind you, they didn't know. That was not part of the calling off the wedding. Like, no one knew why, really. Right.
Yeah, I didn't say that we called off the wedding because I was, like, questioning my sexuality.
Dear 400 people.
So they didn't know that was, like, the reason. I'm sure some of them probably assumed. But they didn't know that was actual reason. So I think they probably had a lot of questions, but they didn't want to ask out of respect for, like, keeping the weekend about just, like, spending time with family. And that was what we had dedicated it to. So we wanted to honor that. So that was kind of just, like, a funny little aside. The day of the wedding, actually, I had kind of, like, the last conversation with my fiance, and we ended things on, I think, as good a terms as we could. I think it was a really sad and, like, really trying time for both of us. And because it was me who was experiencing the, like, the questions and like the wondering and everything, it was kind of me who, like, I was the one responsible for communicating all of that and making it clear that like I had to be as honest as I could. And that was really hard. It's really hard to like hurt someone that you love really deeply with something that is inevitable and something that's honest. So that was a really hard conversation.
So I had communicated with her that I didn't want to see her, hang out with her until everything was like said and done with the fiance. I felt like I had already caused a lot of damage. Like, that feels like the wrong word, but I felt like I had already done so much wrong somehow that we had like stumbled into this, and I felt like it was kind of not my fault, but I carried some guilt about that. And so I wanted to be really clear to her that I wanted those two things to be as separate as possible, like us trying something and her ending her relationship. And I was also nervous that I was just going to be like some experiment. That's a harsh way to put it. But that was like my biggest fear, I guess, that she wasn't, that she wasn't totally sure about this and was going to try it with me and then might not like it. And then that would be that. And that would be the end of our friendship, but also the end of her relationship and the end of my relationship, and then like everything's just exploded. So
honestly, that wasn't even something that crossed my mind until we brought it up either. And I was like, I didn't even think about the possibility that it wouldn't work out. That's not usually my move. I'm definitely an overthinker. I'm definitely a like anxiety, like this will never work. So that was a rare experience for me to be overly confident.
That confident, which is funny because I forgot to even think about that on behalf of myself. I'd never been with a woman, and so like there was also my own fear that like, what if I tried it and I didn't like it, and then it was my fault, and everything was my fault. So fast forward to the first time we were hanging out after all this is happening, and suddenly there's this huge mounting pressure of like, well, now like we've done all of this so that we can maybe try to be together, and now we are together, so what next? So she came over and we had like our first kiss, which I was so nervous for, like terrified for. And Sadie was like playing it so cool, and she was like taking her time, and I remember at one point I was like, can we please just do it because I'm really nervous? In other words, but that was like definitely the emotion that I was giving her.
That's so funny. I don't think you would tell me that.
No, I mean, not in those words, but that is what was happening in my mind. I was terrified. Which, oh my gosh, bringing it all together, I'm kind of a demisexual to begin with. As in, I become more and more physically attracted to someone the better I know them, and that's not something that just happens right off the bat for me, usually.
I'm the same way. Like, you don't like see someone and think like, oh, I would be with that person. Like
sexually.
Yeah. Or like, I can find someone attractive, but it's not, that doesn't mean that I would be like, oh, I want to be in a relationship with them. Like, I want to be their girlfriend.
Or like, but I think it's more about physical. Like,
yeah, but I feel like that extends to like the like relationship piece. I don't know. I feel like a lot of times people will like, I don't know, like pick someone out across the room and they're like, I have to be with them. You know,
that's my life. Yeah. So I hadn't had all of that time to build that up about Sadie yet. And so I was like, well, we're going to try it, and then it'll probably build. And that's kind of exactly what happened for me. I think that I was feeling a lot of emotions, and a lot of that was excitement, and a lot of that was nervousness, and it was almost like something I just wanted to do so that then we could get to what I viewed as the most exciting part, which was like actually being with her after. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I was excited about that too. Yeah, and I think like throughout this whole time, I mean, I was on such a, this is such a cliche, but I was on such a roller coaster of emotions. Like, I don't even think it's like a roller coaster. I was like, trying to find another analogy.
You were like the roller coaster operator who was like pressing go on the train and then just watching it like.
Yes, exactly.
And like you were sitting on there, but you were actually just.
Yeah, it was like, it was crazy because I had all of these emotions, but they weren't like surfacing. It was very much like in my head. I was experiencing a lot of like emotional turmoil, but it wasn't coming out. So like Hannah was saying, like I like was playing it all cool and like I looked all cool and like calm and everything, but it was just, I was like kind of in a haze. Like, it wasn't that I like didn't feel anything. It's just that it never came out. Like it never like surfaced so that anyone could see it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that was like my body or my mind's way of like self-preservation, like trying to, have some sort of like normalcy. Because I was experiencing all of these like really crazy things that there is no handbook for like what if my relationship doesn't work out and I've already gotten engaged. There's no rule book for that, and people don't tell you how to handle it. And so it was everything I did, I felt like I was doing wrong because whatever I did, there was someone that was like, oh, you probably shouldn't do that. And I was like, I don't know what to do, because if I do the opposite, then someone else is gonna come in and say something. So it was like I had all of these like crazy emotions and crazy experiences, but it was so like encapsulated in me, and I couldn't let it out. It wasn't like I was like bottling it up and trying to hold it inside. It was just like, I was like, I don't know. I can't, it's not coming out. Like I feel it. I know it's in there, but it's very like much under the surface. So I may have looked cool, but I was very nervous too, and I was very excited.
Yeah, and the first kiss was great.
Yeah, there are a lot of bad ones. This was not one.
No, and maybe that was the most shocking part. Like I was worried that because I hadn't kissed a girl that I was interested in, I was worried that it would feel like wrong. I don't know if those labels seem weird to me, probably because I'm 1, bisexual and 2, demisexual, so I don't even know what it's like supposed to feel like, if it feels like perfect or if it feels like so wrong.
Yeah. I was worried about it feeling like wrong, like being like, this is not the right choice. Which I also feel like if you have like a bad first kiss, that doesn't necessarily mean anything.
Right.
But when you spent a couple of months extracting yourself from what you thought was going to be your forever for this moment, like if it goes wrong, you're like, what?
Yeah, we did all that for this. Yeah, and we had spent the last 5 years kissing each one person.
Yeah.
And so it probably just seemed so different that it was like, well, this isn't him. This isn't what I'm used to. So, yeah. But it was good.
It was good.
Yeah.
So that was our first step, kind of, and things continued on from there. And we'll probably do one more of these just to kind of get you up to speed on like where we're at now. We've given some pieces of it. If you haven't seen the accidental U-hauling video, we kind of pick up from this point and tell the rest of the story about how we moved in together. So if you're really anxious and curious about what happened next, you can check out that video.
Other than that, that's it for this one.
Yeah.
So
thanks for watching.
Yeah, thank you for watching. If you liked it, hit the like button. If you have any comments, please hit us with them. We read them all and we try to respond to them all.
Yeah. If there are any questions or anything, feel free to ask.
Yeah. And if you have enjoyed watching us and want to keep following along, consider subscribing. That'd be really cool. We'll see you next time.
Yes.
Bye.
That was a fun one.
Yeah. You started it?
Yeah.
Why are you laughing?
Because I said it's at your eyeline and it's like the little grid on the phone.
Oh.
As if
You can see that. You can feel that, right, on your face.